a rhyme, spelling, and a reading. Jack Frost was creepy along beside the shelf toward the goblin. They hadn't noticed him because they were so interested in their books. They were still reading aloud. The grumpy troll had a handsome snowboard down the snowy mountain. The first goblin was reading the top of his voice. Everyone gasped because they had never seen such amazing skill and speed. They were better than Olympics athletes and faster than fairies. The goblins had a very good hiding place for the apples below the second voice, but Millie, Tilly, and Jilly cheated and spied on them and took the apples back to the orchard. So the goblins locked them in an ice castle. 100 later, so the goblin locked them in the ice castle for 100 years and served them right. Boo! Cried Jack Frost, leaping out in front of them. Goblin jumped out in fright, dropped the books on the floor. Jack Frost walked slowly toward them and backed away until he was hit by a bookshelf. I'm here for the magical badge, he said. You little pea-brains are going to give it to me right now. He pulled a blue book out from under the robe and could see the title clearly because it was written in shiny silver letters. Fantastic Jack Frost, the story of my life. This is the best book in the world, he said. I want every single goblin in my school to hear the story, but none of them are paying attention, and it's all your fault. He was shaking with rage, and the goblins started to knocking together. What can we do, your iciness? Asked the first goblin. The second goblin opened his mouth to speak, but couldn't get any words out. So he gave a little curtsy instead. Give me the badge, fool, Jack Frost roared. Trembling, the goblin put his hand into his pocket and grabbed a shiny badge. That's it, said Linda. My badge. But before the girls could do anything, Jack Frost had snatched the badge and disappeared in a crack of blue lightning. Quick, use your magic, Rachel begged Linda. We have to catch Jack Frost. Linda flirted out of Rachel's pocket and hovered in front of them, holding up her wand and speaking the words of a spell. Follow Jack Frost without any delay to find the golden badge he stole away. Whether in sunshine or whether in snow, take us wherever he chooses to go. With a whooshing sound, a ribbon of sparkle, fairy dust wound around the girls, wrapping them in magic. They closed their eyes, and their shoulder blade twinkling as gossamer's wings appeared. They heard a twinkle of far-off silver bell and blast of ice-cold air. Whether they opened their eyes, they were standing inside a different kind of library. Icicles were hanging from the shelves, and there were patches of ice on the threadbare carpet. But the strangest thing was every book in the library was exactly the same. Row after row, the girls gazed at thousands of copies of large blue books with the title written in silver letters, Fantastic Jack Frost, the story of my life. They were inside the library of Jack Frost's Ice Castle. The girls and Linda were standing between two rows of bookshelves. Before they could say a word, they saw Jack Frost strutting across the front of the library. A crowd of goblin students was sitting on the carpet in front of him. "Hide," said Kirsty with a gasp. They flirted over to hide behind the bookshelf at the back of the library, close to the door. "I thought Jack Frost had said that the goblins weren't paying attention," Rachel whispered. "They all look very well behaved to me." "That's a good reason for that," said Linda, looking seriously. "Look at what they are wearing on his robe." The girls peered through the bookshelf and saw Linda's magical badge glittering on Jack Frost's robe. "That's why the goblins were being so good," said Kirsty. They watched as Jack Frost makes a copy of his book and started to read. "Chapter 1, he began. "The fairies has always caused trouble for me, and their silly nonsense of right and wrong is always getting in my way. One day I decided that enough is enough. My brilliant idea instantly thought of a fantastic plan to stop them. Once and for all, Jack Frost was a very boring reader. He didn't want to change the tone of his voice at all. He was droned on and on. The girls were soon yawning, but goblins kept listening as if the story most wonderful that they had ever heard. "We have to do something to stop him before we fall asleep," said Linda. "We need to go get the badge back." "But how?" Punched. Rachel looked around and saw a bell hanging on a hook at the library door. She tapped Kirsty on the shoulder and pointed at the bell. "Jack Frost must ring the bell as the signal for break time," he said. "We have a much better chance of getting the badge back from him if the goblins were playing outside. But first, Kirsty and I need to look like goblins." Linda held up her wand. "Let my spell hide both these faces, cast away a human graces, disguise my friends as goblins grain, and let no fairy wings be seen." The girls creeping, tickling feeling as their clothes were replaced with green goblin uniforms. Their nose and ears grew long and pointy, and their hair shrank away until they were bald. "Rachel, you look terrible," said Kirsty with a giggle. "You too," said Rachel, giving her a hug. "I'm glad it's only for a little while." They made their way over to the library door, hoping that Jack Frost wouldn't see them. Luckily, he was still busy reading all up about himself. They couldn't hear his voice beaming. "That's when I generously decided to give some goblins a chance to be my servants," he declared. "I visit the goblin city and choose the least foolish and the least ugly of them all. They all kiss my hand in thanks." "This is definitely not a good story," said Rachel. She reached up and rang the bell as loudly as she could. At the front of the library, Jack Frost jumped in surprise, stopped reading. The goblins scrambled to their feet, and they were stampeding for the door. "Let me out," Kirsty heard one of them mutter. "Get away from this horrible story," whispered another. "I couldn't stop listening," said the third goblin. "Something was forcing me to be good. It was awful." They pushed and shoved one another aside, trying to reach the door first. Rachel and Kirsty had to run to get out of their way, but the confusion they ran in the wrong direction, straight up to Jack Frost. He pinched one of Kirsty and Goblin's ears between his thumb and forefinger. He did the same to Rachel, frowning at them. "I saw what you two did," he snapped. "You rang the receipt bell too early. You're interrupting the amazing story of my life. You're going to be punished for that." "We're so sorry. We're very sorry," said Kirsty. Please, to whimper the real goblin, please don't punish us. But Jack Frost was furious, and he wouldn't let go of their ears. You will miss recess, he said. You will come to sit in my office and work. Come on. Rachel and Kirsty exchanged a hopeful glance. Maybe this was their chance to get Linda's badge back. Pulling Kirsty and Rachel along by the ears, Jack Frost marched them out of the library to a dim, damp hallway to his office. There was a brass sign on the door, Jack Frost, headmaster and genius. By twisting their head around, Rachel could see that Linda was hovering behind them in the shadow. Jack Frost kicked the door open, shoved the girls inside. Then he marched around to the chair behind his desk and sat Linda. Just had time to slip inside the room before the door banged shut. Kirsty saw her behind the large potted plant. Above her was a droopy cactus. You two are going to learn that when I'm talking, you should be listening, said Jack Frost, drumming his long finger on his desk. You should have been paying attention in class. So I want you to write a whole page of each why fantastic Jack Frost, The Story of My Life is the best book ever. Oh, thank you, sir, exclaimed Kirsty, much to Rachel. That's a wonderful assignment. I could talk for days about your book. It's so exciting. You must be very smart to written something like that. A smile flickered around Jack Frost's grumpy face, and Rachel suddenly understood Kirsty's idea. If they could distract Jack Frost, Linda might be able to unpin the badge from his robe.